My name is Ethan Vance. I'm a socially awkward guy who delivers for DoorDash to make ends meet. When I got the call from someone claiming to be my wife, my first thought was, new scam. Then the doorbell rang. Standing there was the woman who, until that moment, had only existed for me on giant billboards and movie screens. America's sweetheart, the superstar Ava Sterling. Behind her stood bodyguards in dark suits. In her hand, she held what looked disturbingly like an official document. Her gaze, cool and appraising, swept over my sweat-stained t-shirt and my tiny, cramped apartment. Ethan Vance? I was so flustered I could barely speak. Oh, who are you looking for? She held out a marriage certificate right in front of my face. My picture and hers photoshopped together flawlessly. You, my husband. Her tone was flat, leaving no room for argument. I told you 5 years ago I'd come back for you. My mind reeled. I scrambled through my memories. 5 years ago, did I give a bowl of soup to some girl crying in the rain? And an umbrella. That was it. That was enough to get someone to latch onto you for life. Before I could process this plot twist straight out of sci-fi movie, she'd slipped past me into my tiny place, pointed at my one and only couch, and announced with an air of complete entitlement, I'm sleeping here tonight. You can't kick me out. Watching this A-list celebrity, this goddess of a silver screen, make herself at home on my threadbare couch, I seriously wondered if the world had gone insane. My brain went from buzzing to a full-on system crash in about 3 seconds. The door clicked shut softly behind her bodyguards, cutting off any curious eyes from the hallway and the dim, motion sensor light. My rental, a tiny one-bedroom barely scraping 350 square feet, suddenly felt suffocatingly small with her in it. The air was a surreal mix of expensive perfume and a lingering scent of my own sweat from my last delivery run. Ava Sterling, a name practically everyone in America knew. Multiple Oscar winner, fashion icon, sole heiress to the Sterling family's immense fortune. A single paparazzi shot of her could break the internet. One of her movies could rake in hundreds of millions, sometimes billions at the box office. And me? Ethan Vance. Socially anxious. DoorDash driver. Bank account balance usually hovering just in the low 4 figures. The distance between us wasn't just miles. It was an entire galaxy. She surveyed my little apartment, her eyes drifting from the yellowing paint on the walls, over the stacks of books in the corner, finally settling on my small dining table. On it was my forgotten dinner, a lukewarm container of Chinese takeout. This is what you eat. She finally spoke again, her voice cool and crisp, like ice clinking in a glass. I instinctively tried to hide the takeout box behind my back, my cheeks burning with embarrassment. I usually cook. Just got in, too tired today. Why was I even explaining this to her? She didn't press. Instead, she walked straight to the old couch she claimed and sat down. It let out a faint, protesting creak under her weight. She was wearing a sharply tailored white pantsuit, and seeing her perched on my faded, plaid couch was so incongruous it felt like some kind of performance art. So, I summoned every ounce of courage I possessed, trying to untangle this mess. Ms. Sterling, what exactly is going on? That marriage certificate. It could be real. She pulled another document from her designer handbag and pushed it across the small space towards me. Prenuptial agreement. All my assets are legally protected. They have nothing to do with you. We just need to maintain the marriage for 1 year. After that, I'll give you a sum of money substantial enough to ensure you're comfortable for life. Her eyes were calm, as if she were discussing a perfectly ordinary business transaction. I picked up the agreement, my hand trembling. The terms were clear. She'd be beautiful, famous, and my legal wife, and all I had to do was provide a place for her to stay. Why me? I asked, my voice hoarse. It was the million-dollar question. She looked up at me, and those eyes, famously described as holding all the stars in the sky, were now filled with a deep, bottomless exhaustion. Because I need a safe place, she said, then paused before adding, a completely safe place, where no one knows Ava Sterling, only Ethan Vance. My heart skipped a beat. Besides, she looked at me, and for the first time, her voice held a barely perceptible trace of dependence. You make really good soup. I was speechless. For a bowl of soup, a bowl of homemade chicken noodle soup I dished out 5 years ago, was a superstar's brain wired differently than us regular folks. My place is really small. You won't be comfortable here. I tried, one last desperate attempt. It's fine. She leaned back against the couch and closed her eyes, her long lashes casting shadows on her cheeks. As long as there's somewhere to sleep. Looking at her exquisite face, etched with weariness, the words of refusal caught in my throat like a fishbone. Kindness. Sometimes it really was my biggest flaw. That night, I gave her my bedroom. I myself, clutching a blanket, lay on the hard living room floor, listening to her steady breathing from the couch, and didn't sleep a wink. My life, it seemed, was about to spin completely out of control. The next morning, a very faint noise woke me. I opened my eyes. Dawn was just breaking. Ava Sterling was standing in the middle of my living room, looking like she wanted to change the water bottle on my ancient water cooler, but had no idea where to start. She was wearing a plain white t-shirt I kept for emergencies in the bedroom. It was huge on her, making her look even more slender. Without makeup, stripped of her superstar aura, she looked more like a pretty girl from next door who'd run away from home. "I'll get it," I said, scrambling up from the floor, my body aching. She jumped, her body tensing instinctively, then relaxed when she saw it was me. I wanted some water," she explained, a little awkwardly. I quickly swapped out the water bottle and poured her a glass of lukewarm water. She sipped it slowly, her gaze drifting unconsciously towards the kitchen. I got the hint immediately. "Hungry?" I asked. She nodded, a flicker of anticipation in her eyes. Socially awkward me, faced with a world-famous actress who'd essentially moved in, found that her expectant gaze was our only real way to communicate. Cooking. "What would you like?" I've got a few things in the fridge. "Soup," she answered without hesitation. The kind from 5 years ago. My heart did that little flip again. She actually remembered. I opened the fridge. Thankfully, the chicken, carrots, celery, and some herbs I bought yesterday were still there. I expertly prepped the ingredients, got a pot simmering, and soon the small kitchen was filled with the comforting aroma of chicken noodle soup. Ava stood in the kitchen doorway the whole time, quietly watching me work, not saying a word. Her focus was intense, not like she was watching a cook, but more like she was observing a piece of art that brought her peace. When I placed a steaming bowl of soup, sprinkled with fresh parsley, in front of her, I saw her eyes light up. She picked up a spoon, blew on it carefully, then took a bite. In that instant, the tight, cool mask she wore seemed to melt away with the warmth of the soup. She ate slowly, deliberately, as if savoring some unparalleled delicacy. "Thank you," she said, looking up after finishing the last spoonful. It was the first thing she'd said to me since arriving that didn't sound like an order or a business deal. "You're welcome." I scratched my head, feeling awkward. Can we talk again?" She put the bowl down, her cool demeanor snapping back into place. "What do you want to talk about?" "This marriage. How long is it supposed to last?" "The agreement says a year." "What happens after a year?" "After a year, we get divorced," she stated calmly. "I'll handle everything. It won't affect your life at all. So, what I need to do during this year? Stay home. Be somewhere I can find you." She looked at me, her words deliberate. "I need a place I can come back to when I can't take it anymore." "Your place. This is it." I froze. Her words, like a stone dropped into the calm pond of my mind, sent ripples outwards. She wasn't here for some quirky life experience. She was here for refuge. This woman, standing at the pinnacle of fame and fortune, what on earth was she so afraid of? The first official day of cohabitating with America's sweetheart pushed my social anxiety to its absolute limit. I had to go out for my DoorDash shift, as usual. Before leaving, I stood there, looking at Ava Sterling, who was sitting on the couch engrossed in a script, and felt a level of indecision I'd never experienced. How was I supposed to tell her I was leaving? Ms. Sterling, I mumbled, stalling for a good minute before finally getting the words out. "Ava," she corrected without looking up. "Or just Ava Sterling." Then, softer, "Just Ava is fine." "Ava." My tongue fell tied in knots. "I'm heading to work." She hummed in acknowledgement, then looked up. "Will you be back to cook dinner?" "Yes. I'd like beef stew," she requested, as if it were the most natural thing in the world. "Me? Okay." The moment I closed the door behind me, I let out a long sigh of relief. I felt like I just survived a high-stakes diplomatic summit. However, the disaster was only just beginning. Halfway through my shift, my phone buzzed. A text from Ava. Her profile picture was an arty black and white shot of her, exuding cool elegance. Ava, we're out of makeup remover. Ava, also I want a Coke. Cold. Ava, and a bag of Lay's. Original flavor. I stare at my phone screen, standing outside a busy mall, my scalp tingling. Me, a guy with crippling social anxiety, had to go into a drugstore or supermarket and buy makeup remover, a Coke, and chips for the Ava Sterling. The mental image was just too much. But what could I do? She was technically my wife, and now, sort of my meal ticket benefactor. Steeling myself, I walked into a CVS. I circled the beauty aisle 3 times, enduring the repeated, "Are you some kind of creep?" stares from sales assistant. Silently chanting, "I'm buying this for my wife," 100 times in my head, I finally grabbed the most expensive makeup remover I could find and bolted for the checkout. Buying the Coke and chips was equally agonizing. I felt like everyone around me was staring, as if they knew exactly who the contents of my basket were for. When I got back to that cramped apartment, clutching my spoils of war, I felt like I just fought a battle, utterly exhausted. Ava took the bag, then paused when she saw me, drenched in sweat. "What happened to you?" "In nothing. It's hot out," I lied. She didn't ask any more questions. She tore open the bag of chips with a satisfying crunch and started eating them with gusto. Watching her sit cross-legged on the couch, munching on chips while reading her script, I had a fleeting thought. Maybe superstars weren't so different from normal people after all. That thought lasted precisely 3 seconds because my phone vibrated again. It was a notification from the DoorDash app. A bad review. Driver took too long with a previous stop. Food arrived cold. 1 star. My perfect rating, my hopes for a bonus gone. I stared at the glaringly negative review, wanting to cry, but unable to. Living with a superstar was coming at a very steep price. Days passed in this bizarre, surreal kind of peace. I do my DoorDash deliveries during the day, moonlighting as her personal shopper, then come home and cook dinner for her. My cooking became the only and most harmonious link between us. She was never a picky eater. She ate whatever I made. But during meals, she was always exceptionally quiet, and the enjoyment and contentment she exuded were so deeply ingrained they couldn't be faked. Gradually, I noticed she was becoming more relaxed around me. She'd wander around the apartment in my oversized t-shirts, leave scripts scattered everywhere, and laugh without a care in the world at funny TikToks. One night, I got up for a glass of water and found she wasn't in the bedroom. Instead, she was curled up on the couch, knees hugged to her chest, watching an old movie on her phone in the dim light. On the screen was her own face. It was from her breakout role, the film that had won her first Oscar. I didn't disturb her, just watched her silhouette in the dark. In the movie, she was radiant, full of life and confidence. But the Ava in my living room was huddled in the shadows, looking like a little girl in need of protection. I poured her a glass of warm milk and quietly placed it beside her. She startled, turning to look at me. "Can't sleep?" She nodded, turning off the movie. "Did I wake you?" "No." I sat on the floor, a little distance away. "Why? Why are you watching this?" I thought celebrities avoided watching their own work. She was silent for a long time before whispering, "I just wanted to see if I was really that happy back then." My heart twinged. "Are you not happy now?" I asked. She didn't answer, just turned to gaze out the window at the inky black sky. "Ethan," she said suddenly, using my first name, "do you believe that sometimes when you're standing at the very top, you're not looking at a beautiful view, but at the edge of a cliff?" In that moment, I felt like I'd touched the softest, most vulnerable part of her, hidden beneath that tough exterior. She wasn't an all-powerful goddess. She was just a normal person who could feel fear and exhaustion. From that day on, I stopped seeing her as a problem who had invaded my life. I started taking care of her, almost unconsciously. Her stomach was sensitive, so I'd make gentle broths. She was a light sleeper, so I'd warm up a glass of milk for her before bed. I discovered she had a sweet tooth and started teaching myself to bake little desserts. Watching her lips curl into a smile over a piece of tiramisu I'd made filled me with an unexpected sense of accomplishment. I think I was starting to get used to having someone at home waiting for me. The uneasy peace was shattered on a Wednesday afternoon. I just finished a delivery and was heading to the grocery store to pick up some fish when my phone started vibrating uncontrollably. A flood of texts and missed calls poured in, all from my small circle of friends. Jake, holy crap. Ethan, is that you in those trending photos? Ben, dude, you sly dog. Keeping this on the down low. How'd you land America's sweetheart? A knot formed in my stomach. I quickly opened Twitter. The #1 trending topic, practically screaming in bold red letters, stung my eyes. Hashtag Ava Sterling Mystery Man. My hand trembled as I clicked on it. A high-definition photo filled the screen. In the picture, Ava Sterling, wearing a hat and a mask, was walking out of my rundown apartment building. And next to her, a man in a delivery uniform was carrying 2 large grocery bags, his head down. Though his face wasn't clear, the build, the faded t-shirt. I know myself, even if I were reduced to ashes. It was me. It was over. My mind went blank. Within minutes, my personal information, name, age, occupation, even some cringy posts I'd made on an obscure college forum years ago, had been dug up by the internet's relentless detectives. The comment section was a war zone. Seriously? A DoorDash driver? Is Ava blind or something? Ugh, I'm gonna be sick. What kind of dirt does this guy have on her? Total gold digger. My heart breaks for Ava. She's definitely being scammed. Run, AVA, run. That dump he lives in, pretty sure our girl's gonna be footing his bills for life. Vicious speculation and insults washed over me like a tidal wave. For someone like me, used to living in my own quiet world, being thrust so maliciously into the national spotlight was terrifying. I felt like I couldn't breathe, my stomach churning. I just wanted to run, to escape it all. I stumbled back to my apartment, flung open the door, and saw Ava sitting on the couch, tablet in hand, her face unreadable as she scrolled through the news. I opened my mouth, but no words came out. Should I apologize? Accuse her? She looked up, saw my deathly pale face and panicked eyes, and her brow furrowed slightly. Are you okay? She asked. I shook my head, though my body wouldn't stop trembling. I'm sorry, I whispered. I'll move out tomorrow. We can say we're just friends, or that I'm some distant cousin. I was babbling, desperate to clear her name, to get her out of this mess, and to retreat back into my safe, anonymous corner. Why are you apologizing? She cut me off, standing up and walking slowly towards me. I'm the one who came to you. I'm the one who wanted to stay here. Her voice was quiet, but incredibly firm. Ethan, you haven't done anything wrong. She looked at me, her eyes filled with a sharpness and a protectiveness I'd never seen before. Let me handle this. I'd expected Ava's way of handling this would be a cold, corporate PR statement, or maybe just silence, waiting for the storm to pass. I'd even braced myself to be thrown under the bus by her and her team. After all, sacrificing a nobody to protect a superstar's reputation was standard operating procedure in that world. I was wrong. At 7 o'clock that evening, Ava Sterling's official Instagram page posted a video. In it, she was makeup-free, wearing a simple white shirt, sitting on my old couch. The background was unmistakably my tiny 30-square-meter apartment. She wasn't hiding anything. She was putting it all out there. Hi, everyone. It's Ava Sterling. I want to say a few things about the news circulating online today. The man in the photos is not my boyfriend. She paused, then dropped the bombshell. He's my husband, Ethan Vance. The internet, in that instant, collectively lost its mind. I was sitting next to her, off camera, watching her calm, resolute face on my phone screen. My heart was hammering against my ribs, threatening to break free. She was crazy. She had to be. We're married, she continued, her voice quiet but resonant. He's not a gold digger. He's the man I chose. He's an incredibly kind, gentle person. He works hard as a delivery driver to support himself, and there's no shame in that. His place isn't big, no, but for me, it feels safer than any mansion. As for why I chose him, she looked directly into the camera, a faint smile playing on her lips, a smile filled with a tenderness and pride I'd never seen before. It's because when the whole world was chasing the glitter and glam of Ava Sterling, he was the only one willing to offer a warm bowl of soup to a drenched, unknown girl crying in the rain. That kindness is priceless. Finally, her gaze sharpened instantly. My family is my business to protect. Any malicious slander or personal attacks against my husband will be met with the full force of my legal team. That's all. The video ended. The world went silent. I turned my head, staring blankly at Ava beside me. She was looking back at me, those eyes that usually held such weariness and distance, now shining with a fierce, protective light. She hadn't run, hadn't denied, hadn't distanced herself. Instead, she'd spread her powerful wings and sheltered me, an ordinary guy caught in a hurricane, completely. In that moment, the high walls I'd built around myself out of social anxiety and insecurity cracked for the first time. I walked over to her, took the bowl of fish soup, which she hadn't had a chance to eat while dealing with a media frenzy and had gone cold, from her hands, and silently went into the kitchen to reheat it. When I handed the warm soup back to her, I said softly, "Eat it while it's hot." It was the first time I'd actively taken care of her. Not out of obligation from our agreement, not out of baseline kindness, but because I genuinely wanted to. 7. Ava's official announcement hit the entertainment world and society at large like a bombshell. At first, the ridicule and skepticism continued, but gradually, the tide began to turn. Someone dug up an old, anonymous blog claiming it was Ava's. The account had sporadic entries dating back 5 years. 5 years ago, had the best bowl of soup in the world today. Pure kindness, with no strings attached, actually exists. 3 years ago, insomnia again. God, I wish I could have that soup again. 1 year ago, I think. I found him. 1 month ago, plan in motion. The most recent posts were a complete change of tone. Today's beef stew was incredible. Meat so tender and the gravy. Perfect for soaking up with bread. At the soup chef, tiramisu. Just the right amount of sweetness, melts in your mouth. At the soup chef, someone's pan-seared salmon was restaurant quality. At the soup chef. The tagged account, at the soup chef, was my long-abandoned food blog where I used to post recipes. The internet erupted into a massive shipping frenzy. This wasn't some random fairy tale romance. This was the superstar's long-planned journey to find her man. Ava Sterling, the ultimate doting wife, had officially logged on. She started subtly flexing her husband in various public appearances. In an interview, when asked about her favorite food, a gentle smile. "My husband's home cooking." On a talk show, after winning a high-end rice cooker in a game segment. "Perfect. The one at home could use an upgrade." I became the most envied man online, and to her fans, I was affectionately known as Chef Ethan, or simply Ava's husband. My life, too, had changed drastically. I quit my DoorDash job. I couldn't go anywhere without being recognized. Just as I was feeling lost about my future, Ava's manager, a no-nonsense woman named Brenda, contacted me. She handed me a folder. "Ava had this prepared for you." Brenda's expression was a mix of scrutiny and reluctant acceptance. A storefront in a lively downtown neighborhood. It's secured. The renovation blueprints are in here. See what you think. I opened the folder. Inside was a complete business plan for a small, intimate bistro. The restaurant's name, The Quiet Corner. A nod to my name, Ethan, and the piece I supposedly brought. My heart thudded. I can't accept this. I pushed the folder back. It's her money. "Mr. Vance," Brenda sighed. "Do you think Ava is trying to keep you? She's investing in you. She believes in your cooking. And more importantly, she believes in you as a person. She said you shouldn't just cook for her. Your kind of warmth should be experienced by more people." Brenda paused, her tone softening. She said she wants you to have your own career, your own foundation, so you can stand beside her, not hide behind her. This is her way of protecting you. I looked at the proposal, my eyes starting to sting. This woman, always in her own way, sometimes clumsy, but always resolute, was being so incredibly good to me. She wasn't trying to cage me. She was trying to gently lift me out of my shell of insecurity. After a long silence, I finally took the folder. "Tell her." I looked up at Brenda, my voice steady. "Thank you. I'll make it work." 8-inch The Quiet Corner, opened. No ribbon cutting, no PR blitz. It just quietly opened its doors on a side street, away from the main hustle. The place was small, only 5 tables, reservations required, with limited seatings each day. I was the sole chef and owner. On opening day, my palms were sweating. Ava didn't come. She knew her presence would turn it into a paparazzi circus. But she sent a beautiful flower arrangement. The card had a single sentence. "To Chef Ethan, break a leg." The first customer was an internet fan who'd heard the news. The second, a food blogger tipped off by a friend. Then a third, a fourth. I poured all my energy into every pot and pan, every single dish. I wasn't making fancy gourmet meals, just simple, comforting home-style food. But I put the same care into every plate that I put into cooking for Ava. Every dish was served with warmth. Soon, the quiet corner was a hit. Not because the owner was Ava Sterling's husband, but because the food was genuinely incredibly good. Comforting was the word diners used most often. Eating at Chef Ethan's place just melts away the day's stress. That beef stew tasted just like my mom used to make. Socially awkward owner, divine cooking skills. This place is a hidden gem. I started to get my own fans. They call me Chef Ethan, or, amusingly, the Zen Chef. I was swamped every day, running off my feet, but I felt more fulfilled than ever. I was no longer the DoorDash driver hiding behind Ava Sterling. I had my own career, my own way of standing on my own 2 feet. I earned my first truly significant amount of money. The first thing I did was wire the full amount for the restaurant's lease and renovation costs, plus interest, to Brenda. When Brenda received the money, she was stunned for a moment, then simply texted me back, "Ava wasn't wrong about you." That evening, I closed up the restaurant early and went back to our home. Ava was curled up on the couch waiting for me, like a lazy cat. I pulled a small box from behind my back and handed it to her. She opened it. Inside was a simple silver necklace with a tiny silver skillet charm. I'd had it custom made. "For you," I said, scratching my head, a little embarrassed. "I bought it with money I earned." Ava looked at the necklace, her eyes shining. She didn't say anything, just stood up, leaned in slightly, and tilted her head, silently asking me to put on her. As my fingertips brushed the warm skin on the nape of her neck, my heart skipped a beat. Once the necklace was on, she turned around, stood on her tiptoes, and pressed a light, feather-soft kiss to my cheek. "Ethan," she looked at me, her eyes crinkling at the corners with a smile. "My amazing chef, you're incredible." My face flushed crimson. 9 with the restaurant thriving, my confidence grew daily. I was no longer terrified of interacting with people. I could even joke around with regular customers. My world, once a cramped corner occupied only by me, had expanded, and Ava had given me all of it. My feelings for her had slowly evolved from initial shock and sympathy to gratitude and comfortable familiarity, and now they were fermenting into something deeper, more potent. I called it love. I started wanting to know more about her, about the real person beneath the superstar veneer. The opportunity came sooner than I expected. One day, a drunk rich kid came into the restaurant causing a scene, trying to use his money to cut the line and making rude comments. "Aren't you just some cook who got famous because of his wife? Who do you think you are? Acting all high and mighty?" In the past, I would have silently endured it and then called the cops. But that day, Ava happened to be at the restaurant, dropping something off for me. She heard his words, and her face instantly turned to ice. She was about to unleash her fury, but I stepped in front of her first. I looked calmly at the belligerent guy, untied my apron, and said, my voice steady, "First, this is my restaurant. Please follow my rules. Second, you can insult me, but you will not insult my wife. Now, please leave." My voice wasn't loud, but it was clear. The entire restaurant went silent. The rich kid, momentarily stunned by my unexpected assertiveness, grumbled a few more curses and stormed out. I turned around and saw Ava looking at me with an incredibly complex expression, surprise, admiration, and a touch of deep emotion. That night, when we got home, I didn't immediately head for the kitchen as usual. I cornered her by the front door, looking at her with an intensity, a hint of possessiveness she'd never seen from me before. "Ava Sterling." I said her full name, my voice a little husky. "Now it's my turn to ask the questions." She leaned against the wall, not flinching, just watching me quietly. 5 years ago, why were you crying alone in the rain?" This was the core secret between us, the one we'd never truly touched. "Didn't you say I was your safe harbor?" I took a step closer, our faces inches apart, close enough to feel each other's breath. "Well, now your harbor wants to know what kind of storms the ship he's sheltering has weathered." I was no longer the passive Ethan Vance. Tonight, I was taking the lead, determined to unlock the doors to her carefully guarded heart. Ava's body gave an almost imperceptible tremble as I moved closer. Her long lashes swept down, hiding whatever emotions swirled in her eyes. "Do you really want to know?" Her voice was a mere whisper. "I do," I answered, without a shred of hesitation. We stared at each other in silence for a long moment. The only sound in the living room was the low hum of the old refrigerator. Finally, as if she'd made a momentous decision, she began to speak, her voice flat, as if narrating someone else's story. 5 years ago, that day, it was my 20th birthday. It was also the darkest day of my life. That day, she was supposed to be at a lavish birthday gala her family was throwing for her, accepting accolade from everyone. But just before the party, she overheard her father and uncle talking. They were discussing marrying her off to a notoriously dissolute scion of another wealthy family, a strategic alliance to secure a vital infusion of capital for the family business. Her father, whom she had always revered, was calmly discussing her value as a commodity. In that instant, her entire world had shattered. The home she'd been so proud of was nothing but a gilded cage. She, the so-called golden girl, was just another asset to be bartered. She fled the party, without her phone, without any money, running through the streets like a madwoman. Then, the heavens opened up and a torrential downpour began. She found shelter in a deserted alleyway, soaked to the bone, shivering. But the coldness in her body was nothing compared to the ice in her heart. She felt the whole world was a sham, dirty, everyone wearing masks, every act of kindness having a price tag. She huddled on the ground, thinking in despair that maybe just dying there wouldn't be so bad. It was then that a figure appeared at the mouth of the alley. A young guy in what looked like a school jacket, holding an umbrella, cautiously approaching her. That young guy was me. I was just walking home from a late class. I added softly, my mind also traveling back to that rainy night. "You didn't ask who I was or why I was crying." She looked up, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. "You just saw I was cold, and you handed me the container of soup you were carrying, what was supposed to be your own late-night meal. It was chicken noodle soup, still piping hot. Then you left the umbrella with me and ran off into the rain yourself." Her voice choked as she spoke. "Ethan, do you have any idea that before you showed up, I had decided to give up on everything? It was your soup, your umbrella, that unquestioning, pure act of kindness. It was like a light pulling me back from the abyss. It made me believe that maybe, just maybe, genuine warmth still existed in the world. So I told myself I had to survive. I had to become strong, strong enough to break free from all the chains. And then I had to come back and find you. It took me 5 years to achieve the first part. Now," she reached out, her hand gently cupping my cheek, a tear finally escaping and tracing a path down her face. "I'm here to finish the second." The truth was out. I finally understood the logic behind all her seemingly bizarre actions. That marriage certificate wasn't a trap. It was her cry for help. Her cool aloofness wasn't her nature. It was her armor. Her attachment to my cooking wasn't just about the taste. It was because that taste represented the most profound moment of salvation in her life. My heart felt like it was being squeezed by a warm hand. Aching, swelling, filled with an indescribable tenderness and a fierce desire to protect her. I said nothing. I just opened my arms and pulled her into a tight, desperate hug. An embrace 5 years overdue. She was so thin. I could feel the delicate bones beneath her thin clothes. In my arms, she was stiff at first, then slowly she relaxed, finally burying her face in my shoulder and letting out all the pent-up tears. She cried like a child who had endured an unbearable injustice. All these years, she'd shouldered the crushing weight of her family's expectations, navigated the treacherous waters of Hollywood, transforming herself from a desperate young woman into an indomitable icon. She must have been so tired. I gently stroked her back, as if comforting a wounded animal. "I'm sorry," I said, my voice hoarse. "I'm so sorry I made you wait so long, all alone." She shook her head against my shoulder, her sobs making it hard for her to breathe. "I should be thanking you," she choked out. "Thank you for still being here." "I've always been here," I whispered, kissing her hair, inhaling the familiar, clean scent of her shampoo. "And I always will be. Ava Sterling, listen to me." I took her by the shoulders, making her look in my eyes. Seriously, deliberately, I told her, You didn't latch onto me. You found your way home. From now on, I, Ethan Vance, am your harbor, your home, your forever safety net. You don't have to fight alone anymore. You have me." Her tears flowed freely, like broken strands of pearls. But this time, her eyes weren't filled with pain and despair, but with the light of immense relief. She rose on her tiptoes and kissed me. This kiss was nothing like the fleeting, feather-light touch from before. It was filled with 5 years of longing, with the gratitude of surviving a storm, with absolute trust and surrender. I kissed her back passionately. In that moment, we weren't a superstar and a delivery driver, an Oscar winner and a line cook. We were just two souls, warming each other, saving each other. We were Ethan and Ava. After that night of complete honesty, the last sliver of distance between Ava and me vanished. Our relationship entered a new phase, sweet and intoxicating. She was no longer the ice queen. Around me, she'd be playful, a little demanding, even get jealous if she thought I looked at another female customer for a second too long. I was no longer the insecure, socially awkward guy. I'd firmly order her to bed when she was exhausted and tell her cheesy jokes when she was stressed about a script. Our little rental apartment truly became a home. One evening, while we were curled up on the couch watching a movie, she suddenly said, "Ethan, let's have a wedding ceremony." I blinked, surprised. Not for anyone else. She leaned against my shoulder, playing with my fingers. "Just for us. I want to wear a real wedding dress for you." "Okay," I said, squeezing her hand, a warm current flowing through me. We started planning our private wedding. No guests, no media. We chose a clifftop spot overlooking the ocean, beautiful and secluded. She didn't pick a designer gown, but instead sketched her own design and had an independent dressmaker create a simple, elegant white dress just for her. I, of course, was in charge of all the food. I designed a unique menu for her, each dish holding a piece of our story. The appetizer was First Sight, an elevated version of my chicken noodle soup, presented more elegantly. The main course, Heartbeat, was my signature beef stew, representing the initial warmth of our life together. Dessert was Forever, a special tiramisu I created for her, its name meaning "take me with you," symbolizing a sweet future. Our wedding day was perfect. A gentle sea breeze, warm sunshine. She walked towards me in her white dress, holding a small bouquet of wildflowers I'd picked myself. In that moment, it felt like all the light in the world was focused on her. She was breathtaking. We had no officiant, just each other. We exchanged rings we designed ourselves, engraved with our initials. E and Looking into her eyes, I made my vows. "Ava Sterling, from this day forward, I, Ethan Vance, take you. For richer, for poorer, in sickness and in health, to love and to cherish, as long as we both shall live. I love you," she cried, tears of joy streaming down her face. "Ethan Vance," she choked out in response. "I've waited 5 years to hear you say that. I love you." From that rainy night until forever, witnessed by the ocean wind, we kissed. 13. Though our wedding was private, Ava chose a special way to share our joy with the world. The day after the ceremony, her studio's Instagram account posted a carousel of photos. No lavish scenes, no celebrity guests. The first photo, a candid shot of me in an apron, cooking at our temporary clifftop kitchen. The second, Ava in her wedding dress, running barefoot on the beach, her back to the camera. The third, our unique wedding menu. The fourth, our clasped hands, showing our simple wedding bands. The ninth photo, a silhouette of us kissing on the clifftop, bathed in the golden light of the setting sun. The caption was simple, personally written by her. "Introducing my whole world, at the Quiet Corner Chef." The post once again broke the internet. But this time, the comments weren't filled with doubt or ridicule, but with an overwhelming wave of blessings. "I'm crying. This is what marrying for love looks like. No fancy cars or diamond rings, no A-list crowd, but I see the happiest wedding in the world. From a bowl of soup as salvation to the Quiet Corner sanctuary, this is a fairy tale romance." He turned America's sweetheart into a carefree girl, and she turned him into a man who could stand proudly by her side. This is the ultimate two-way street. I declare, Chef Ethan and Ava Sterling's love story is the new gold standard for Hollywood romance. I smiled as I read the warm comments, then logged into my At the Quiet Corner Chef account. I reposted Ava's pictures with just 3 words. My everything to 14. Life after the wedding was calm and sweet. The Quiet Corner continued to thrive, becoming a beloved late-night spot for many. I remained the quiet chef who warmed everyone with his food. Ava cut back on her workload, turning down grueling projects and only choosing scripts she truly loved. She started to learn how to simply enjoy life. We moved out of the small rental and bought a house in the suburbs with a yard. I started a small vegetable patch, growing her favorite things. She filled the rest of the yard with all kinds of flowers. When she wasn't working, she'd be makeup-free in a simple cotton dress, helping me water the vegetables, or she'd pull up a stool and sit among the flowers, watching me cook through the kitchen window. Sunlight would stream in, falling on her peaceful face as she sometimes napped, and I'd think, this is it. This is what they mean by happily ever after. Sometimes she'd get a sudden urge to try her hand in the kitchen. The result was usually a near disaster. I'd patiently take the spatula from her, shoo her out, and then, like a magician, salvage her culinary creations into a decent meal. She'd cling to my arm, her eyes wide with admiration. "Honey, you're amazing." And I'd playfully tap her nose and say, "That's why the kitchen is a superstar-free zone." Then she'd chase me around the house, laughing. Our home was always filled with joy. One night, we were curled up on the old couch again, watching a movie. We'd moved that couch from the rental to the sunroom of our new house. It was still our favorite spot. "Ethan," she murmured, snuggling closer, "I don't think I've had trouble sleeping in a very long time." I leaned down and kissed her forehead. "That's because you're home." She looked up at me, her eyes sparkling, reflecting the starlight, the vast ocean, and my own clear image. She smiled, a radiant, childlike grin, as if she'd just been given all the candy in the world. "I'm home." Outside, the moon shone brightly. The stars blazed across the velvet sky. I knew our story was only just beginning. For the rest of my life, through storms and sunshine, in quiet moments and grand adventures, the tenderness in my heart would always be for her. My superstar wife had latched onto me for life, and I wouldn't have it any other way.